In a world that often encourages us to look away, where we mistake shadows for monsters, real heroes are often hiding in plain sight. This is the story of a man who is about to face a choice that would change everything. The low rumble of engines had just quieted down outside a dusty roadside diner, with the smell of leather and gasoline mixing into the air. Inside, a group of bikers, guys with faces weathered by the open road and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much, settled into their booths. They were the kind of men most people would cross the street to avoid. But on this particular day, one of them was about to show everyone what true strength really is. The morning calm was suddenly broken by something you could barely even see, a tiny flicker of movement. Under a corner table, where a broad-shouldered biker named Cole had just sat down, a pair of wide, terrified eyes stared back at him. It was a little girl, no older than 9, hiding in the darkness. She was trembling, soaked to the bone, and clutching a tattered backpack like it was the only thing she had left in the world. Cole froze, his hand stopping just short of his coffee mug. He'd seen fear before, on battlefields, in bar fights, in the eyes of men who'd lost it all. But this was different. This was the pure, silent terror of a child. And as he looked down, her silent plea for help felt like a shout that was deafening the entire room. Before Cole could even really register what he was seeing, the diner door slammed open so hard the windows rattled. A tall, furious-looking man stomped inside. "Anyone see a little girl running here?" he growled, his voice slicing through the quiet chatter. Every head in the place turned. Under the table, the girl flinched so hard her teeth chattered. That one tiny movement told Cole everything he needed to know. This wasn't a worried father. This was the monster she was running from. Without hesitating, Cole made a choice. He casually slid his heavy leather jacket off the back of the booth, letting it drop to the floor. It was a simple, smooth motion, but it was perfectly timed. The thick leather landed in a heap, completely hiding the little girl from the angry man's view. "I ain't seen no kid," Cole said, his voice steady and calm, as he met the man's glare. He lifted his coffee and took a slow sip, never breaking eye contact. You could feel the tension crackle in the air. The other bikers at his table, his crew known as the Iron Ravens, had all gone silent. Their hands were resting on the table, but their eyes were sharp, watching and waiting. They knew their leader. They knew that quiet tone. It was the calm before the storm. The man sneered, his eyes darting around the room, pausing for a second on Cole's intimidating frame. The sight of all the bikers, just sitting there silent and motionless, seemed to make him think twice. "You sure?" he pushed, trying one last time to sound tough. "Yeah," Cole replied, his voice dropping a little, a low rumble that was more of a warning than a word. "Now why don't you get out of here before you say something you'll regret?" It wasn't a threat, just a simple statement of fact. The man muttered a curse, shot the room one last hateful look, and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The sound of his truck engine faded into the distance, leaving only the quiet hum of the diner. For a long moment, nobody in the diner moved. It felt like everyone was holding their breath. Then Cole slowly bent down and lifted the edge of his jacket. "It's okay," he murmured, his voice now gentle. A complete turnaround from the man who just faced down a bully. Slowly, the little girl crawled out. Silent tears of relief streamed down her dirt-streaked cheeks. Between quiet sobs, she told him her name was Lily and whispered what happened. Her stepfather had been drinking and got angry. In a moment of sheer courage, her mother told her to run and find help, anywhere she could. Lily had run barefoot down the cold, wet road, and the diner was the only light she saw in the darkness. Cole listened, his jaw tightening with every word she spoke. He waved over the waitress, a woman named Sadie, who had watched the whole thing with nervous eyes. "Get her some food," he ordered quietly, "and a hot chocolate. It's on me." Sadie nodded and rushed to the kitchen. As Lily started to eat, she kept glancing at the window, as if she expected the monster to come back at any second. The other bikers, seeing what was going on, moved in closer. One of them, a huge guy named Tank, took off his own jacket and gently draped it over Lily's small, trembling shoulders. Another one, known as Preacher, started talking to her about her favorite cartoons, his voice surprisingly soft and kind. In front of everyone's eyes, these intimidating men transformed. They weren't a biker gang anymore. They were a wall of protectors. They were her guardians. That quiet act of courage in the diner started to spread. An older man who had been watching from his booth walked over and put a $10 bill on the table. "For the little one's breakfast," he said with a simple nod. Soon others did the same. A trucker left a small carved wooden bird next to her plate. The waitress, Sadie, came back not just with food, but with a warm, dry blanket she'd grabbed from her own car. What began as one man's decision to do the right thing had sparked an incredible wave of kindness. The diner, once just a room full of strangers, had become a community, all connected by a shared moment of decency. They all knew they were seeing something special. The moment good people decide not to just stand by and do nothing. Cole made a quiet phone call, and before long, the faint sound of police sirens grew closer. When the officers walked in, they didn't see a group of scary bikers. They saw a circle of heroes protecting a little girl. Lily's mother was called, and the relief in her voice was something you could feel. While they waited, Lily, now warm and with a full belly, did something that surprised everyone. She found a crayon and a napkin and started to draw. When she finished, she shyly handed it to Cole. It was a picture of a big, bearded man standing in front of a small girl, shielding her from harm. Underneath, she'd written, "My hero." Cole stared at the drawing for a long moment, an emotion he rarely showed flickering in his eyes. He carefully folded the napkin and tucked it into his vest pocket. "That's going with me wherever I ride," he said, his voice thick with emotion. It's stories like this that remind us that heroes are everywhere, often in the most unexpected places. They aren't defined by what they wear or how they look, but by the choices they make when it really counts. If this story touched your heart, think about sharing it. You never know who might need a reminder that there is still so much good in the world. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that restore your faith in humanity. When Lily's mother finally ran into the diner, she wrapped her daughter in a desperate hug, with tears of gratitude streaming down her face. She looked at Cole and the other bikers, her voice choked with emotion as she whispered, "I don't know how to thank you." Cole just shook his head. "No thanks needed, ma'am. We protect our own." And tonight, she was one of us. As Cole and his crew got on their motorcycles, the engines roaring to life, they weren't just a biker gang leaving a diner anymore. They were like knights in leather armor, riding off into a darkness they had just made a little bit brighter. The story of what happened in that roadside diner would become a local legend, a powerful testament to the fact that true strength isn't about looking tough. It's about how gently you can protect those who need it. And it's a reminder that sometimes the safest place to be is in the shadow of a giant, and that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when you need them most.